Welcome back to Vikes with a mic on this very special Friday edition. And by very special, I mean um, it's going to be the exact same. There's nothing that's changed. We just are so fed up. Um, I'll be honest, I wasn't feeling that well Tuesday night, so we decided to not record. But I think I speak for both of us when I say that we needed the time off. We needed to
Yeah,
just
right.
take a step away from the Minnesota Vikings, especially after this last game. So without further ado, um, let's break down this week 9 matchup of your Minnesota Vikings and the Baltimore Ravens. Vikings are now 3-5. Um,
Ah, man. Yeah.
took a very fat L to the Baltimore Ravens. One that, after watching last night, what little I did watch,
Oh, that
hurts
makes me
even
even more
more.
angry. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
hurts even more. So, um, definitely tough. Definitely tough. Uh, yeah, man, let's just freaking get right into this. So, your Vikings end up losing in overtime, 34-31. The Baltimore Ravens make a tremendous comeback to tie it up at one point, make it look like they're going to win, and then the Vikings tie it up, um, send it to overtime, and plenty of things happen in overtime, and then Mr. Automatic. Well, I guess
Yeah.
not last night, but
Yeah.
normally Mr. Automatic.
Right.
Uh, Justin Tucker comes out there and defeats the Minnesota Vikings with his leg. Give me your thoughts, man. It's just, I don't care where we start. I'm
You
just
don't.
so hurt, you know.
I mean, where do you want me to start? Because there's a point in this game where, especially the overtime. Okay, so the overtime happens. We score that touchdown miraculously at the end of the fourth quarter. Which, by the way, people, we didn't score a touchdown the whole fourth quarter besides Kenny Nwangu's. I mean, second half touchdown besides Kenny Nwangu's insane return. But
Yeah, right.
in overtime, we lose the toss, right? And I'm like, shoot, this game's over. I think our defense is worn out. I think we don't have a chance because they've been on the field for so long. Baltimore's getting the ball
Yeah,
first, right? So I'm just like, it's over at this point, all right?
that's what I
And
thought.
yep, that's actually exactly what I thought. And Baltimore gets the ball. They drive down the field a little bit, gets about midfield, and Anthony Barr bats a ball midair and picks it off. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to win this game. But then, nope, our offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, decides, let's run the ball twice in a row on first and second down. Like, you have Kirk
For
Cousins.
practically no gain.
Yeah, for no gain. You have Kirk Cousins, who you're paying a ton of money. Well, the dude is literally showing in overtime that he can clutch up and make a big play. You don't put the ball in his hands late in the game, which that makes absolutely no sense to me at all. What is the play calling there? These coaches don't. Situational play calling has been horrible. Like we've said it on this podcast multiple times. Like why are you running the ball twice there? Like you got to take a shot down the field. Baltimore's corners, obviously coming into this game, were I think 32nd rank. Like that's terrible.
The worst ranked defense for passing in the league.
Like, and on that JJ touchdown, obviously, I mean, he goes off and obviously destroys the corner, but like, we just stopped doing that. I don't get why. Like,
yeah,
we just stopped. There was no more deep shots after that point. Like, I don't get what happened there. Like, why did that just stop?
I know I'm only looking at receptions here. He had 3, but I think
his only 5 targets. Five. Exactly. 5 in a game that went to overtime. 5 targets. 5. Like that. How does that happen? Justin Jefferson, arguably top 5 wide receiver in this league. Nope. Only 5 targets. It's just laughable at this point. It's laughable.
Right.
Like,
I just want to point out for everybody listening at home right now and like hearing the pain and the anger in Tyler's voice. That's why. That's why we stepped away this week. That's like, and we're still that heated, right? Like, I'm trying to keep myself composed, but you're bringing up this fire in me right now, Tyler.
Yeah. I've held it in for a couple days, man. I have not talked about the Vikings since probably like Monday.
Nope, I feel you. Haven't even brought it up. Just absolutely terrible. So yeah, I think you bring up a great point. We've already discussed that, in our opinion, the Zimmer era needs to end.
Yep.
Now, whether or not the Wilfs decide to do that during the middle of the season or at the end of the season is, you know, I guess it doesn't matter at this point. It obviously feels like it's not going to be a middle of the season decision unless he loses like the next, I don't know, 3 games or whatever. Um, but at the same time, I feel like him and Spielman are also kind of connected at the hip. So I can see why maybe they're going to wait until the offseason so they can bring in a new general manager and a new head coach and yada, yada, yada. We'll get into more of that as the season continues, if/when the Vikings continue to play as poorly as they are, or, you know, get torn down by bad mistakes that coaching and management puts them in. But at the very least, Clint Kubiak should have been fired after that game. Like, at the very, very least, Clint Kubiak needs to have no longer been the offensive coordinator after this game. The fact that we're going to LA with Clint Kubiak still as our offensive coordinator, let alone Mike Zimmer as our head coach, is, I think that's a testament to how bad this coaching staff really is.
Obviously, Zimmer should be gone, but just the whole Clint Kubiak experiment, it's got to end. Like, he's not his dad, people. He's not Gary. Gary led us really a top 5 offense statistically last season. Like, his play calling, Clint's play calling is just holding us back so much right now. Like, it's so bad. It's at the point where this is like, how is the ownership watching these games and seeing this? Like, how is this okay? The fans on Twitter have been very vocal. How is this okay with what you're watching?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. It's just so like the same route combos every single game. Teams watch film on us, and it's the same thing every week. I mean, we have a scripted game plan to start a game, right? And then once a defense makes an adjustment against us, it's just the same thing over and over again. We don't make any adjustments, and defenses just pick us apart at that point. So we make no adjustments on the offensive side of the ball.
And it sucks because it's like, yet again, this week, it almost felt like the best example throughout the entire year, which is saying something. The Vikings take a solid lead, and then they just let off the gas. And they just let Baltimore come right back. And not only come right back and make it interesting, but come right back and win. Like, at least there have been some times where we've come out with the victory, but there hasn't been a single game, it feels like, this season that hasn't been close, that hasn't been mostly dominated, at least, you know, whether that's through the feel of momentum, the actual time of possession, whatever it is, by the Minnesota Vikings. You know, I think we played 8 games. I think at least 7 of them have been pretty dominantly at one point in control for us, and we have let 5 of them slip away and turn into losses. So absolutely horrible. And that comes down to coaching. That comes down to coaching. It comes down to Kirk to an extent, like on offense, not audibling into more aggressive.
He's got to check out of. He's got to check out of more plays. Yeah. Kirk's got to take the lead, man. Like that's another thing. He doesn't have that alpha dog like mentality. This is Kirk's team right now. He doesn't. I don't feel like he realizes that. Like, Kirk, you're the quarterback here. Take charge, man. If you don't like something, check out of a play and do what you think is right. Don't listen to Clint Kubiak because he's a freaking idiot.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so like I was saying, you know, it comes down to his leadership on the offense and checking out of those plays and getting into something that maybe is more aggressive, or at least at the very least takes advantage of what he's seeing on the field, or what you know he believes he's seeing on the field,
right.
And it isn't just like well, this play is drawn up to go deep, but hey, my 2-yard check down is open on 3rd and 11, so I'll just take the easy completion and the guy makes a play.
That play aggravated me so much, and I know what play you're referencing there. My goodness.
And so the other thing is too that I've seen one person touch on it on Twitter, and I feel bad because I would give them credit if I could remember the tweet, but I don't remember exactly who it was. But basically, it was somebody talking about vaccination rates, and how
Right.
the vaccination rate for the Vikings is the lowest in the NFL.
Yeah.
And last week, unexpectedly, right, day of, you're without Harrison Smith. And then you have this massive COVID scare that's happened this past week. Dakota Dozier in the hospital still, 29 players and personnel considered to be close contacts, and they all had to get tested. Luckily, not a ton came of that. I saw Kenny Willekes, though, just went on COVID IR.
Yep.
After he had a great game in Baltimore. But like, I'm gonna make the same exact statement that I saw this person make on Twitter. Does that not show like the lack of leadership on this coaching staff as well within this organization? The fact that like these players don't even want to do the bare minimum as far as getting vaccinated and you having that as an advantage.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The fact that there are players that are just okay with basically saying, yeah, I'm probably going to miss some games, and I guess that could cost us a lot.
I mean, I literally have a perfect example. I don't know like every specific team's like vaccination rate at the moment, but I know for a fact Tampa Bay is 100% fully
100%.
vaccinated, and they're the defending champions for a reason. They're doing this because they want to go back to back. It's not about like it's not about just you. You got to look out for your whole team as well. You're looking out for your people around you and your team. Being 100% vaccinated helps your team out as a whole right now in the NFL. It's an advantage. I think I've said that before on this podcast. And the Vikings, they don't care. You know, it's like, we'll miss a game or two if we catch the close contact. You know, it's okay that we'll miss a game, but it's really not like.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean it doesn't even go just for the Vikings, right? Like this is a Vikings podcast, so we're going to stay focused on them, but like literally just look right across the board.
It's any NFL team. Yeah.
With the whole Aaron Rodgers situation and like blatantly lying about it. Now he missed this last game. They lost. He probably one that they would have won quite honestly had he played. And now he's going to come back Saturday right before they play Seattle, I believe, and Seattle's going to be having Russell Wilson back for the first time and all this stuff. Yada, yada, yada. Anyways, doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about Green Bay a whole ton, but like that's the idea, right? Like Harrison Smith, you're a much needed person on this team. You're a leader on that defense. You're arguably one of, if not the most consistent, best players out there a majority of the time. And now he has to not only miss this last game, in which I think he would have been absolutely massive. Shout out to Cam Bynum, though, for stepping in and having a really fantastic game in replacement of Harrison Smith. I will say that. But he also has to miss this next game against LA, which is huge because our corners are atrocious. Rashad Breeland's injured. Like, you're going up against the insanely talented wide receiver core, and as much as I hate to admit it, a fantastic quarterback in Justin Herbert, still not deserving of Rookie of the Year, but just, it's the little things like that. And I know that Zim was big on it and about the whole vaccination stuff to the media and all of that, but he obviously doesn't have a culture of buying in, because if he really did, then just like you said, we would have a Tampa Bay 100% vaccination. No excuses to not go for the Super Bowl type mentality within this building. So pretty disgusting, if you ask me. Just how much you can kind of tie back to the leadership and the coaching staff of this team and how they're failing us, how they're failing the fans.
It just shows that he doesn't have the locker room fully, for sure.
Just, absolutely sad. So let's real quick get into each side of the ball a little bit more in depth, and then we will go ahead and take a look at the LA game coming up on Sunday. And then after that, we'll go ahead and have your segment, Tyler, where we go around a couple of the NFL games back in week 9. So let's start out here with special teams, because I feel like we don't give special teams nearly as much love as we should. Greg Joseph had a pretty great game. In my opinion, I think he played very well. Obviously, didn't miss anything. But the hero of this game is Kenny Nwangu.
Yep.
Dude had a return touchdown that was absolutely fantastic, and a massive fourth down fake punt conversion for a first down. I mean, absolutely deserving of NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, which is what he got.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Man, yeah, I'm just so excited about Kenny Nwangu, man.
Oh, definitely. Like, his speed is just, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Like, we haven't had a return since, what was it? I don't know the exact year. I know that was the first fake punt since 2015, but who was the last one?
I'm
Cordero?
assuming the last.
It was Cordero.
Term, yeah, it had to have been Cordero.
It was Cordero.
Like
I know we had one in
2017.
Yeah, it was Cordero Patterson, but we hadn't had a fake punt since 2015 at Lambeau Field on a Sunday night. I think it was Adam Thielen actually who did that one.
It was. But, yes, it was.
But now, man, like this guy needs to maybe get some carries, I think. I mean, I want to see Nwangu get like some like jet sweeps or just get him the ball in space where he can on actual plays on offense, you know?
Absolutely agree. Yeah, Cook, Cook is dealing with his thing. And, I suppose we should kind of not really get into that, but we should mention that here in a second, that whole situation that Dalvin Cook is going through. But he doesn't really look like himself. I know that he's dealing with injuries and some off the field things as well. But yeah, he just doesn't really look like Dalvin Cook from last year. So if you can use Kenny Nwangu to get him a little bit more rest and some time on the sidelines to like really have him and be able to use him when we need him, that'd be amazing. Because I love Alexander Madison, but he doesn't have nearly as good a vision, I think, as Kenny Nwangu has already shown he has just with that kick return, to be completely honest. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on special teams for the Vikings. I will say though, really quick, everybody seems to forget that the 3 points that Baltimore got.
Oh no. Yeah.
Should have
never happened.
Existed. Yeah. The fact that they won by 3 points and were gifted 3 points by NFL officials is absolutely horrible.
Yeah, that can't happen. Officiating I'm going to get into it later with the specific game, but like
sure. Yeah, and I mean if
this is terrible.
We can wait until then, if you'd like, but I do just have to say, they should have never had an opportunity to kick the first 3 points of this game, which is again obviously what the Vikings end up losing by. That was not a horse collar tackle. That was the clean textbook example of how you're going to pull somebody down. If you're grabbing their jersey at all and yanking on it, you're going to do it right in the center of their back. So yeah, pretty disgusting. Not the first time that the Vikings have been absolutely screwed by the NFL. Won't be the last time, because that's just what it's like being a Vikings fan. But NFL officiating in general, as you kind of just said, you're going to get into later in your segment, has been absolutely atrocious. Not only this year, but I think these past like 3-4 years, I would say at least. It's been like horrible. It's always been not great. But now that we have all of this technology and, you have like New York and all of this stuff, you have guys like Dean Blandino coming in and literally explaining to fans like, oh yeah, that's not a foul. Yeah. They got that one wrong.
It's just so
that's
bad.
not okay that you can't call in and make the officials change their decision, in my opinion. It's absolutely disgusting. It's taking the fun out of the game. And it's going to lose guys their jobs and their ability to feed their family. So just more blood on the NFL's hands. But anyways, that's all I have to say about special teams. Would you like to get into offense or defense, my friend?
I don't really have a preference specifically with this game. I can do whatever.
I feel that. Let's do defense. Let's do defense.
Okay. Perfect.
Because defensively, there was a good period of this game, like a majority of games thus far this year, where the Vikings were containing the Ravens offense way more well than I expected them to
Yeah.
do. They made Lamar look like a fool quite a lot, actually. He was also having just like a really weird day as far as some passing.
His accuracy was off. It was kind of like the Baker Mayfield game.
Yeah. But I do like
I wouldn't say that bad, but
like
yeah.
there might be something to that as far as like the
coverages definitely.
Or the stunts that the Vikings defense is showing.
Right.
Because now it's like, okay, we've seen this happen from a couple different quarterbacks where like, okay, they're not throwing nearly as well as they normally do against this Vikings team. And we know we don't have necessarily the best corners in the league, but they got to be doing something because it can't just be a coincidence that every single time, they're having these errant throws against the Vikings. So that's great. But if you are not able to stand up against the offense when it counts, then it's not worth anything. And we'll get into offensive stagnation and how the defense was out on the field way more often than they should have been, to be completely honest. But they're also, making mistakes at times. They're getting flags called on them, just stupid mistakes that we kind of constantly seem to be seeing from this Vikings defense. And I don't know, man. It's a really hard thing to choose whether they are playing really great or playing really bad at any given time. It feels like they're just constantly having these meh games.
I think the first half was decent, and then the second half was not very good at all, just due to our offense really putting them in bad spots and having to be on the field a ton because we weren't able to stop Lamar Jackson on the ground. What did he run for 120 yards?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
We couldn't keep him in the pocket to save our lives. He kind of just was scrambling left and right.
Yeah.
And then he would take off and get 10 yards. I mean, I don't know. I mean, at the same time, obviously I want to blame this defense, but I mean, the offense second half, they so many 3-and-outs and then putting the defense in a bad spot, mostly at like midfield or something. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to judge specifically in the second half. First half I thought it was good, and then second half, it kind of went downhill.
Right. The 3-and-outs though are, attributed to a bunch of different things, whether it be the checkdowns or the just a lack of aggressiveness in general, the predictability of the offense, all this stuff. And then, you're putting your defense in a absolutely horrible position. So I would have to say I agree with you overall. Excuse me. I think that the Vikings defense played a slightly below average game a majority of the time. Like overall, that's what grade I would put them. But at the very least, when it comes to the Vikings defense, in overtime, when they were absolutely gassed, they made a play. They put this team in position to win this game. Regardless of the fact, that they gave up the points to get them there. They forgot about it. They said, hey, the next down is the next down. What's already happened is already happened. And they went out there and Anthony Barr made a hell of a play. And then, well, let's do it. Perfect segue. Switch gears into the offense. The offense pisses it away. We've already talked about it multiple times, but I'm just so beyond done. Just so beyond done with this Vikings offense, man. It's easier to name the bright spots on this offense than it is to name the amount of things that I hate about this offense. And that's because the bright spots on this offense right now, the consistent bright spots are named Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen's route running, and the potential that we have in Christian Darrisaw. That's like all I'm seeing right now as far as pure positives from this offense. And that is saying so much.
Can I say something about the offensive line real quick? I remember sending you a text earlier this week about Mason Cole starting.
Oh, good God.
My prediction this week was Mason Cole is going to outperform Garrett Bradbury in what he's done all season. And well, guess what, folks? He did. Mason Cole put up a better game than Bradbury has all season this year. I was like, to be honest with you, I was just saying that because I'm like, screw it, I hate Garrett Bradbury right now. But nope, it actually happened, and apparently he's starting again this week, which is great. You got to give him another chance. I know Baltimore's interior defensive line was banged up, and it's not as like good as it has been in the past. But I mean, you got to give Mason Cole another chance, in my opinion, until he proves us wrong. That's all I'm gonna say.
I was not very shocked, if that makes sense, by how well Mason Cole played in the absence of Garrett Bradbury. And I think it's because we have to remember that with defensive line versus offensive line matchups, when you're a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, you're going off of footage from that year, right? Like you can look at a player's entire career, but a majority of those guys, they, especially on the defensive line, they're like kind of changing up their subtleties every year. They're constantly learning. And the same goes with the offensive line, but the offensive line, you at least kind of know what the person is good at and what they're not good at. And that doesn't tend to change a lot. The only difference with Mason Cole is defensive linemen hadn't seen him play real game time action since last year in Arizona.
Right. Yeah.
And I truly believe of what little I noticed when I was watching the game. I didn't go back and like laser in on him at all, but he looked like a better center here in Minnesota than he did when he was in.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know if that's scheme-wise what they're doing. I would have to, like I said, take a deeper dive into that. But I think whatever it was, the way that he was clicking with us, or maybe whatever our offensive line does that's different than Arizona's, wasn't necessarily something that he's put on professional tape before. So that can be a little bit harder for defensive guys because for them it's kind of like trial by error as far as trying to get by him. So I am very intrigued to see how he plays this week.
Yeah, definitely. I
like LA's defensive line. I like that matchup. I think that they have some playmakers on that defensive line, and that it'll be a very solid test for this offensive line. Yeah, so I'm very excited to see how that goes.
I just think you got to give him another chance because only one game, until he proves me wrong and has a terrible game. Yeah, that's when you take him out. You let him ride until it falls apart. And for right now, that's what Garrett Bradbury did. It's falling apart, and you give Mason Cole his chance. Until Mason Cole falls apart, you put Bradbury back in and proves you wrong. But
I can tell you right now, man, I mean, if what ends up happening is that those two just switch spots on the depth chart, I'm okay with that, to be completely honest with you. Like,
if Cole doesn't get pushed back into Kirk, then I'm cool with it.
We didn't spend much for Mason Cole, and he's like solid. Like he played well last week. He's young enough that he can stick around for a while. And I wouldn't mind having Bradbury on the team at least. I think he's good enough that he can definitely play on an NFL team. I don't think that he is, and this might be where we disagree, but I truly think that there are some things that he is really, really great at. There's just also some things that he's absolutely horrible at.
I think he's NFL rosterable. I just don't think he's NFL starter material, specifically being taken in the first round. Like that just can't happen. He's just too undersized, absolutely, in my opinion. But yeah, I think he's rosterable for sure.
100%. Yeah. So with that is your breakdown on the Ravens game. Took us an extra couple days to get to it, but I mean, if you watched it or if you can hear the inflection in our voices, you can see why, because it was absolutely painful to watch. So what we're going to do now is what we always do. We're going to go on to the next week, and that's all you have when you're a Vikings fan is the next week. Hey, maybe we'll get them next week.
Yep, that's life of a Vikes fan.
Yeah, and this week, your Minnesota Vikings will be taking on the LA Chargers in LA. Really hoping that Minnesota Vikings fans travel like they should be for this game. Very easily could be almost a home game atmosphere for the Vikings. It was when I was watching the Vikings game in Baltimore on TV, practically sounded like a home game for them there. They got the skull chant going and
Yep,
everything. You could
I
like
did hear
hear it
that.
on the
Yeah,
TV. So yeah, I expect it to be even better in Southern LA for them, but we shall see. Tyler, as always, what is the key to the Minnesota Vikings beating the LA Chargers this week?
I want to say defense, but I think it's offense again because the lack of just like if we continue to play conservative football and just take all these 3-and-outs, I don't think there's a chance we win this game. I know it's basically, hopefully it's going to be a home game for the Vikings. It realistically should be. I think LA's offense, I think LA is they've been playing like they're a little overrated right now. They did beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's a winnable game. But this offense has to, again, get off to a hot start. First drive, I'm not worried because the first drive we score the majority of the time. But it's whether this team's going to make adjustments. And if this LA Chargers team figures it out, this team has to be able to make adjustments. Because if they don't, I think it's an L right off the rip. Kirk Cousins needs to take assertiveness in this game and take the lead. Get Justin Jefferson 10-plus targets. Get Adam Thielen the ball as much as possible because those are your best receivers and players on offense besides Dalvin Cook. Get Dalvin Cook to the outside more, too. I'm preaching that. Why do we keep running up the middle with Dalvin? You saw the toss play he had this past week where he absolutely juked a couple dudes out, ran basically across the field.
Longest run of his career.
Yeah.
66 yards.
I just, get him to the outside more. Don't just run it up. Dalvin's not a Derrick Henry running back here, Clint. He's not sick. He's not 240 pounds where he can just truck dudes over. He's shifty and he's fast. Get him in space. Get him to the outside. Let your receivers block for him. The offense is pretty much the key for me. They got to get out. They got to just get it together because this team is too darn talented, specifically on offense, for us to fold again and again and again.
Yeah. I love that. I wouldn't say that I disagree with that by any means. However, I will say that I think the defense and specifically the defensive line is the key to this game. Yet another week without Michael Pierce. We already know Anthony Barr is not going to be playing as well. Rashad Breeland is questionable, which means even if he does play, he's probably going to get hurt in the first quarter.
Right.
So going to be thin on coverage, going to be thin in the front of the defense, or the middle of the defense, sorry, not the front. And you're missing one of your big boys right in the middle on your defensive front. So can our edge guys continue to get pressure? Can they do the same things that they did last week? Can they do what they have consistently been doing without Danielle Hunter now, yet again, for the second week, and stay on top of the NFL as far as sacks go? If you bring down Justin Herbert, he has shown in the past that he can kind of get that phantom pressure deal going. So if you really get in his head early, I think that the Vikings are going to have a much better opportunity overall on defense to make him pay, even with the guys that they're going to be missing. And sooner or later, you have to hope if you give this offense enough chances, they're going to score the points that you need to win. If Clint Kubiak decides to be more than a high school football coordinator.
Just one thing to add on the defense. I hope that Zimmer and these guys are watching a lot of tape of that Patriots-Chargers game, because if you watch that game, Justin Herbert looked absolutely lost. That was the worst I've ever seen him look as a professional in the NFL. That, if you watch that game, he did not. His throws were off. He looked very uncomfortable in the pocket. The Patriots did an amazing job against him, and I hope the Vikings try to emulate that and do what the Patriots did in a way that they can fool him and disguise all the different coverages against him.
Yeah, dead on, man. And I'm sure that they are. And
I better hope they are.
But what I mean by that is, well, let's get into predictions here. I'm going to start off with mine because this is a
Okay.
perfect segue. Yep. I'm willing to bet that the Vikings are watching film and they're going to put their guys in an okay position on defense, at least. Okay enough that this game stays tight. Ooh, shocker. Just like every other freaking game this season.
Yeah.
I'm done predicting blowouts one way or another. They're all going to be 3-point games from now on, as far as I'm concerned. 3 points or less. And yes, the Chargers will win. The Chargers will absolutely win this game. They will probably win it in the final seconds of overtime on like a 60-yard field goal. So, yeah, I'm going to say 28-31 and Chargers win. And there's going to be moments where the Vikings defense makes plays and makes Herbert look like he doesn't know what he's doing, because that is how this team operates. And you know what? Right afterwards, we're going to hear Adam Thielen say, yeah, it's disappointing, but we just got to get back to the chalkboard. We know and we know that we can do it.
We've got the pieces.
He's done that every freaking week.
We know we've got the pieces. Man, that is funny. Obviously this game's going to be close because every single Vikings game is close. I was completely wrong with my prediction last week. I said the Ravens would smack us in the mouth, and they did not.
We both did. I think we both said that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I said that we were going to get killed. I think it's going to be a tight game as always. I got the LA Chargers, though, coming out on top. I think our defense actually does make some plays, but I think this offense folds yet again. I think the Clint Kubiak experiment is over, and I think that it's going to keep haunting us until he's actually out of this building. I have a 23-20 final score. I think we'll put up some points in the first quarter, and then I don't know. I think Justin Herbert. Yeah,
like half of our points in the first quarter, and then maybe the other 10 in the fourth, probably.
I just feel like an LA Chargers game-winning drive is going to happen. It's going to be an LA Chargers game-winning drive that wins the game.
Oh, that's cool. Because when you said 20-23, I thought we would have the ball last, and we would miss the game-tying field goal.
Oh God, no! I'm not trying to be painful here, people. I'm not trying to be painful. I just think it's a back shoulder fade to Mike Williams. He's a 6'4" receiver, catches it over freaking Cam Dantzler. Just like giving me the Cowboy game flashbacks, and that's what's going to happen. That'll win the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's a solid prediction. Yeah. So we agree. Vikings will be 3-6 by the time we're recording next Tuesday. Can't wait. With that is the coverage. So if that is all you're here for, feel free to click away. Otherwise, Tyler, my guy.
Yes, sir.
Give us like 3 or 4 games that happened this week.
All right. Let's go to one of my biggest shockers of the week. A game I actually had money on that pissed me off because I made some bets this week.
Dude. Yeah.
Yep. The Denver Broncos go into Dallas, another team that the Minnesota Vikings blew a lead against. Denver Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater, and the Broncos storm into Dallas without Von Miller and win this game 30-16.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just so confused with this game. The Broncos literally shut them out until the fourth quarter with Dak Prescott.
Are you confused, though? I think it becomes easier if you realize that the Vikings are just a bad team. I want to stop listening to my own dad, but it makes everything make so much more sense if you just look at the Vikings as a bad team, and then you're like, the Broncos are like a little bit above average. So yeah, that makes sense. Like,
it's hilarious. Any team that plays the Vikings, the following week they just fold. They beat the Vikings and then just fold. Yeah,
like the fifth week in a row or something like that. That's happened.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
I mean, where was this Cowboys defense? Javonte Williams runs for 111 yards. Dalvin Cook couldn't get anywhere to go. Well, partially because of Garrett Bradbury, but the Broncos ran the ball down their throat. Teddy Bridgewater was hitting his throws. Dak Prescott looked lost. I mean, the Broncos do have a good defense. I'll give them that. But their offense shouldn't be just storming down the field like this. They made so many errors on offense. Dak Prescott his throws were off. Zeke went nowhere. I mean, this was a disaster game for the Cowboys. Everyone was talking about, the Cowboys are insane after beating the Vikings. Well, people, guess what? The Vikings aren't that good. We're not. And I want to say the Cowboys, I mean, they should win the NFC East, but in the end, I don't see this team actually beating some of the top teams, specifically the Rams, the Bucs, the Packers, and the Cardinals. They're not better than any of those 4 teams. The Cowboys are probably the 5th best team in the NFC, people. So that's it. This game tells me more about the Cowboys and the Broncos. Sure, the Broncos might compete for a wild card, but they're not going to win the AFC West.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say there.
What else do you got for us?
All right. Let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, yeah.
It was actually kind of a boring game, to be honest. I thought I was going to get more hype out of this. I mean, it was fun watching Jordan Love suck, but, I mean, to be honest, it was boring. Yeah, it was boring. I mean, it was really boring. But we have to talk about it because it was Jordan Love's first start, and he didn't look very good. The fourth quarter, he got back.
Absolute GOAT.
The text I sent you.
Amazing.
Jordan Love's amazing.
Do you realize how much you had me confused because I was not watching that game? This dude texts me like, Jordan Love's going off. What a GOAT. Like, I can't remember exactly what you said, but I was like, bro, the last time I checked, it was like a scoreless game for Green Bay. What are you on right now?
Oh my god. Yeah, I was trolling. I had a good time watching this game. I mean, it was boring. So I don't even blame you for checking out. This game was terrible.
It's bad.
The Kansas City Chiefs, I'm embarrassed by the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the Green Bay Packers defense, I'll give them props. Their defense actually played the best I've seen in quite some time. Their defense looked good, but the Kansas City Chiefs are not the Kansas City Chiefs of the last 2 to 3 years. This is, for some reason, just not the same team. They're not playing good football. Mahomes just, I don't know what's up with him. Only 166 yards. I mean, he didn't turn over the ball, but, I mean, like, he's got to do better, man. That's not Patrick Mahomes' numbers for you. This game's at Arrowhead Stadium, too. Like, you have the home field advantage. You only put up 13 points. Like, the Chiefs, they somehow found a way. They got lucky and Rodgers didn't play, and that's pretty much the reason they won the game, let's be honest. I love hating on the Packers, but that's just the only reason they won, because he didn't play. But, yeah.
Man, yeah. I think I've already said all that I have to say about this game. Like, it was literally so boring, and what I did catch of note was Jordan Love's mom's seats.
Oh my gosh.
I literally left and turned off the game, I think a solid 2 minutes after that happened. So yeah, that was pretty hilarious.
That was hilarious. Yeah.
And apparently that's on the Packers. That's not even on Kansas City.
Wow.
Because Green Bay gets a certain amount of tickets for players, family and friends, and then they also get to choose which players get which seats. And they, knowing that Jordan Love was getting his first start in the NFL, gave his mom's the worst seats in the house. So that's absolutely hilarious to me.
Yeah, just
very
terrible.
Green Bay. Very Green Bay. Very Green Bay. But that being said, it was also arguably the one game that I was kind of looking forward to. So I think that, I don't know. I think that made it hurt even more that it turned out to be so boring, because I was genuinely intrigued by that game, especially after, hearing what Jordan Love was doing in practice during the offseason and all that stuff with that.
Yeah.
So,
what
else you got?
Just tuning into the Sunday night game. The Titans actually upset the LA Rams, and I was shocked. Matt Stafford pulled out his inner Detroit on that inner pick six that he had. I don't know what that was. That kind of read. What happened there? That was just Detroit Matthew Stafford, not LA Rams Matthew Stafford. I was shocked. Good to see the man, the myth, the legend take the field again. Adrian Peterson. We're always going to be cheering for him. That's awesome. I'm so happy he's back. It's just great to see him back in the league, and he's going to get a shot. I mean, this is a good Titans team. He's going to get a chance to get a lot of carries and start, most likely.
Totally agree, but the more and more teams that he plays for that aren't purple and gold, the weirder it gets for me.
True.
He meant all of what the Vikings were to me before I was, the fan that I am today.
Right.
So it is definitely weird, somebody, I'm sure you can agree with me too, because you're the same thing. Growing up, him being the staple.
He was the face of the team. Yeah, right. Literally. He was the face of the team. Yeah, I know.
For our most important, or not important, but impressionable years, I would say, as like
Right.
young fans. It is definitely weird, but I hate to say it because I wanted his ring to be obviously with Minnesota. We all did, but he's definitely one of those guys that like he needs a ring. He absolutely
He
needs one.
does.
So I hope that he can get one in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans are just proving everyone wrong. This team probably will obviously win the AFC South, but they're just trying to make a statement and see if they can actually compete in the AFC. And who knows? The AFC is kind of a hot mess. I don't even know who's the favorite right now. There's not really like, I mean, the Buffalo Bills are not playing good football right now. Just a lot of the teams in the AFC are just not playing good. And the window's open. The Titans maybe could do some damage. We don't know. I mean, I think the Rams, just to say about the Rams to finish on this game, I think this loss, I think it was just a really poor game for the Rams. Them picking up Odell Beckham now, which is insane. I think, and Von Miller, obviously. I think this team, it was just one game. I think they can move on easily from it. You know, they've lost to two tough teams in the end. The Cardinals and the Rams, those are the only two losses they've had. So,
yeah,
you know,
100%. Is that it for you?
Is
that all your games, or
final one more? The Bears and the Steelers, and this what I want to talk about is not even basically the game. The Boars fall up short, obviously. I mean, who expects them to win games? It's the Chicago Boars, but they did get screwed. They got absolutely screwed. I don't know
many times.
I don't get
once or twice.
Well, yeah, the penalty was like 10-2 or something. Didn't they have like 10 penalties? Like
horrible. It was horrible.
I don't know what that is. The officiating was just so bad in this game. Like these like unsportsmanlike conducts and the taunting. Like what is this? Like the guy gets the sack on third down, and then he's like going over to the sideline. But like, did he even say anything? I don't. Everyone's like,
they were saying that he did, but I honestly couldn't tell.
I didn't see anything. He wasn't
making any gestures, or I can't even really read his face. And then I'm sure you're going to get into it, but what happens after that?
He just struts off, and then the referee gives him a little hip check. Like, what is that?
The referee runs into him.
Yeah, the ref gives him a hip check, and I'm just like, what is happening here? Like, the fact that these refs, it's just like they can get away. I saw like a tweet, like players and coaches obviously can get cut and released and whatever for making poor mistakes and poor decisions.
Fined thousands or millions of dollars.
But then these refs blow these calls in big games, especially late like that one, and they don't get held accountable for it. That makes no sense to me. The NFL needs to do a better job with this. There's just like that can't just happen, specifically in the end of a game like that. I'm at a loss for words with this. Like you can't like blow a game because of that. A call like that can't decide a football game. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
In the end, it's terrible. It shouldn't that's not how it should go. In the end, I don't like the Chicago Bears. I'm happy they lost, but the way they lost, that just can't happen. It's unacceptable for the NFL, and they got to do a better job with these officials, man. They got to be held accountable. Like it's bad.
Yeah. To say the least, you know, they have to be held accountable, as we talked about earlier, in the way of like New York just coming in and actually saying something when they know that the refs have made the wrong call. And then from there, you should be able to get to talk about like actual suspensions or monetary losses. Because it's disgusting to watch the Zebras decide games. I'm really, 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 really sick of it. So.
That's it.
So before we step away, I know I said I was done with all the Vikings coverage, but we never really got into it. And I don't want to get into it a lot because of the actual civil investigation and lawsuit is obviously still taking place, and there's not really a whole lot that we know about. But I think we would be doing those who do listen to this podcast a disservice, not bringing up the fact that Dalvin Cook is at this moment in a civil lawsuit with his ex-girlfriend over an alleged incident of her breaking into his house and holding him and another guest basically hostage or at gunpoint, threatening them and basically verbally and physically and emotionally abusing him and trying to extort him for money and all sorts of things. Now, she is also saying that he is the one who has been abusive and who has been rude to her and was the one who attacked her first and all these things. Quite honestly, I've been trying to follow it as much as possible, and I don't want to say much more because those are really the only things that I am 100% on. But either way, I know who Dalvin Cook is, and I know what I have seen from him. And if what he is saying is true, I wish him nothing but the best, and I hope that whatever he's dealing with comes to an end soon and that he can move on and doesn't have to deal with any repercussions. However, if what his ex-girlfriend is saying is true, then obviously I don't think the Vikings should, or anybody should want to be associated with him.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to necessarily say that I believe one or the other because I don't know. If you can't tell by what I've already said how I feel, then whatever.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I feel like it would have been rude for us to not at least touch on it.
I think we just still need to wait for more information to come out. We don't know the whole scoop
Exactly.
we obviously know both of the sides that these people are saying, but we got to wait for what actually is true and whether this gets taken to court or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah, 100%, man.
So
absolutely,
we're gonna hear the scoop. We're gonna hear the scoop regardless in the end.
At the very least, those of you who maybe don't know a lot about the situation, you should know there is no change as far as Cook's status. So purely, from a football player standpoint, he will be on the field. We'll obviously let you know if that changes at any point. But as of right now, it looks like this will not impact his status for the remainder of this year when it comes to the NFL season. So with that, we are done for the week. We will be back on Tuesday, as we normally are, unless one of us is sick
this happens again,
or we are even more emotionally torn by this game.
Yeah.
So no promises, but also we'll be back next Tuesday. So thank you all so much for listening. As always, make sure that you subscribe, like the video, comment if you're watching on YouTube, that you share this podcast with your friends, support the podcast in any way, shape, or form. And we have a website, www.vikesandmike.com, where all of our previous episodes are archived. So you can go ahead and listen to them if we've made anything that you're like, what are they talking about? That they mentioned this in whatever week, or go back and listen to it and let us know what you think. We love you guys very much. We appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. Hey, no matter what happens, Tyler.
Oh man,
bleed purple and gold, man.
Right, hey man, I'm gonna be supporting this team. I mean, I'm still gonna be here. You know, I'll still be here. As much pain as I go through watching this team on Sundays.
Yeah,
hopefully I'll still be here. I hope they don't kill me someday.
We can lose the rest of these games, man, and I'd still keep showing up on Sundays, Thursdays, and Mondays.
Right.
I'd be cheering for them the same. So, nothing but love to the Minnesota Vikings. Let's freaking pull one out in LA.
Hey, man, you never know. We could pull it out.
Any given Sunday. Given Sunday. With that, we will see you all next Tuesday. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, Skol.